Today asked for prayers for her health, and then later on, and this is a direct quote, he said, "She spoke to me this morning and she said she missed Carrie. She's with Carrie now." And he's not the only one who has said, has commented from the family. Even her stepdaughter also took to Twitter to say, "Godspeed, Mama." So we're certainly seeing a family that has been through quite a bit in the last few days and coping with tragedy.
Yeah, we're hearing an outpouring from Hollywood, also hearing from Deborah Messing, who played her daughter in Will and Grace. Layla Santiago, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for joining us this evening here on CNN. Again, this sad story, the passing of Debbie Reynolds just one day after the death of her daughter, Carrie Fisher, marks the loss of one of the biggest and brightest lights of Hollywood's golden age. CNN's Stephanie Elam has more now.
I'm singing my song for you.
Singer, dancer, actress. Debbie Reynolds was a Hollywood triple threat and America's sweetheart. Her film career began at the age of 16 after being spotted in a beauty pageant.
I'm laughing at clouds.
Her star officially launched just a few years later after a spirited performance opposite Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor in 1952's Singin' in the Rain.
They picked me to put me in Singing in the Rain, then they just locked me in a big old studio, and for 3 months I had 5 different teachers, one for tap and ballet, jazz, modern, and I just worked, you know, till I would just fall apart.
Tammy.
Other notable roles followed, including 1957's Tammy and the Bachelor, which resulted in her #1 hit song, Tammy. She played opposite Gregory Peck in How the West Was Won, and her performance in The Unsinkable Molly Brown earned her an Oscar nomination.
I'm gonna learn to read and write.
Beloved on screen, at times, Reynolds' life off-screen overshadowed her success. She had 2 children with her first husband, crooner Eddie Fisher, producer Todd Fisher, and actress and author Carrie Fisher. In 1959, the marriage ended in a highly publicized divorce when Fisher left Reynolds to marry her close friend, Elizabeth Taylor. A painful betrayal, Reynolds was able to joke about the scandal years later.
I was a Girl Scout. I really was really a simple little girl, and that's what I was. And he fell madly in love with Elizabeth. There's nothing, now I understand, you know, so many years later. And it's in the past.
Her second and third marriages also ended in divorce, each time causing Reynolds financial pain. However, she had quietly been collecting Hollywood memorabilia over the years that would prove a wise investment. In 2011, Reynolds sold Marilyn Monroe's white subway dress at auction for $4.6 million. She also never quit performing. Though she stepped away from film for much of her career, Reynolds continued to entertain on Broadway stages and in Las Vegas nightclubs.
All I need is...
In addition, Reynolds had several TV roles over the years, notably playing Liberace's mother in the 2013 Emmy-winning TV movie Behind the Candelabra. Her wide array of work was recognized in 2015 when the Screen Actors Guild honored Reynolds with the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Debbie Reynolds.
Reynolds says she loved every minute she spent in show business in her 2013 autobiography, Unsinkable. She credited the love she had for her friends and family for her personal and professional resiliency.
I paid $20,000 for this sucker.
And it is that spark and sense of humor, along with her talent, that Reynolds will be remembered for.
I love you. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
How could you not love her? Debbie Reynolds' death is shocking, coming so soon after the death of her daughter, Carrie Fisher. Stars are pouring out tonight and speaking out on social media. The first one I want to read is from Ellen DeGeneres, and she says, Debbie Reynolds was one of the last of Hollywood royalty. It breaks my heart that she is gone. I hope that my grieving was done on 2016. And there it is up on the screen. And then Debbie Allen, the choreographer and actress, says, and director says, I can't imagine that Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds' family are going through this week, what they're going through this week. I send all my love. And then Albert Brooks also says, Debbie Reynolds is God. God is holding you with Carrie in his hands. We will always speak your name. Again, that's Debbie Allen. Sorry, those may have been out of order a little bit, but you get the sentiment coming from members of the Hollywood community this evening. Again, we're going to continue to discuss this. Debbie Reynolds died just 24 hours after losing her daughter. Joining me now is Dr. Debbie Napia-Parampo. She is NYU School of Medicine, from NYU School of Medicine, and Matthew Bellamy, the executive editor of The Hollywood Reporter. Again, Matthew, as I said, how could you not love Debbie Reynolds? Bubbly, beautiful, talented, smart. And we were just remembering Carrie Fisher 24 hours ago, and now we have her mother, Debbie Reynolds, has passed away. What's your reaction?
I mean, it's obviously tragic development, but you know, it's hard not to think that the two are related. I mean, she was already not in great health. Last year, the Academy gave Debbie Reynolds the humanitarian Oscar, and she was unable to attend the ceremony to accept it. So she hasn't been in the best health in recent years. However, what she's gone through in the past week had to just be overwhelming. And today they were apparently talking about funeral arrangements for Carrie Fisher when she started to get ill and ended up having to go to the hospital and passed away.
Her son spoke to her this morning and released a statement, Matt, saying, Debbie spoke to me this morning and said she missed Carrie. She's with Carrie now. I mean, this really says a lot about Debbie, how she was feeling and how close she was to Carrie.
Right. Now, keep in mind, the relationship between Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher has been a tumultuous relationship throughout their lives. I mean, remember, Carrie Fisher wrote a memoir, Postcards from the Edge, specifically about this relationship with her mother, and that was then dramatized in the film version. So it hasn't always been a pleasant relationship, but in recent years, they apparently had reconciled, and they participated in a documentary that played at the Cannes Film Festival this year and will be on HBO next year, specifically about the relationship between Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds.
Dr. Debbie, I want to go with you. Given the circumstances, can this bring on a stroke? I mean, no parent wants to lose a child. You don't expect it. I'll ask you what I asked you earlier. Is it possible she died of a broken heart?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it with the timing, right? So there are a couple of different ways that can happen. When you're under extreme stress, your stress hormones go up. And that actually causes a lot of changes where your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your breathing becomes faster. Now, most commonly, if you have underlying medical problems and your body can't quite handle all those changes, then your underlying medical problems might come out, whether it's heart disease or neurologic disease. But you actually can die of a broken heart itself, even if you had no other medical problems. So we don't actually know why. It's called broken heart syndrome. But it seems to be when that happens, your heart, just part of it, it's a pump, right? That it dilates and it's not able to pump properly anymore. So you actually can experience this type of shortness of breath. Your EKG and your other blood tests may not look like you have heart disease, but you actually start to have these symptoms of heart failure.
We know that Carrie Fisher died of a heart attack, Dr. Debbie, at the age of 60. She was on an airplane when she suffered that heart attack. From a medical perspective, what are some of the questions that you have? If she had been closer to a medical facility, it would probably have been better for her.
Of course. I mean, being on the plane, at the time, she seemed lucky that at least it was in the process of landing and she could get to a medical center quickly. But in general, if something happens like that on a plane, you know, you may not have access to the same type of medical personnel. Now, of course, with heart problems, there are two types of problems. There could be mechanical problems where the heart's not pumping properly. There can also be electrical problems where essentially the power is not turning on properly, right? Like if that electrical system isn't working, then that's why you need CPR, someone to give you a little bit of a shock to actually get that heart started again. So it seemed that she had both problems going on that plane.
And Matt said that they had reconciled in recent years. I mean, many people have turbulent relationships with their parents and with children, and that doesn't, you know, diminish the love that you have for them. Here she is. This is back in 2010, talking about her bond with her daughter, Carrie.
Are you proud of your daughter?
Are you proud of me?
I'm very proud of my daughter. She is wonderfully gifted and a very special daughter. She's great talent. No wishful thinking here. No wishful drinking.
What's your reaction?
Well, Debbie Reynolds also tweeted when her daughter was in the hospital, right, that she thought Carrie was stable. So just the amount of love that she had for her daughter and perhaps her feeling that her daughter was going to be okay, and then to have this sudden downturn. I mean, it's just such a tragedy all around.
Matt, Debbie had just finished a documentary that she filmed with Carrie Fisher, which will be released next year on HBO. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, the film has actually been shown. It was reviewed at the Cannes Film Festival this year and got very good reviews. So it really delves into their relationship and the storied history that both of these actors and performers and writers have had throughout Hollywood. And it really is a special film from our critics' perspective, and I think it's now going to get a lot of attention considering both its subjects are now not with us.
I want you guys to take a listen to Debbie Reynolds talking about the entertainment industry.
So competitive, and you know, you're rejected so much when you go in, unless you're on the top of the list. And I've been everywhere, so I've been on the top, I've had the fans tear me to pieces, you know, all of the different phases that happens to you as a star. And young, and then the middle age, and now I'm going to be 60 April. So wow. I've been in the business now. It started at 16, 44 years.
Now you were once the top box office draw. You've had every up and down you could possibly have.
I'd say
You've
that.
been on the front page of the newspaper. What do you think has been the resiliency factor? What do you think keeps
Well, I think
Debbie
the love of entertaining. You just love what you do. There's more fun in this business than anywhere. You have to be very strong. You have to be religious or have your own faith of some kind, because you can't let it get you down. You can't, the failure that happens to you, you know what, the rejection is pretty tough sometimes, so you have to stay really strong and hang in there, believe in yourself. And you know that you're really good, and you know, you have to know that your fans love you.
I mean, timeless, Matt, and she had a great attitude. What was her reputation in Hollywood?
She was known as a survivor. I mean, she had gone through one of the great tabloid scandals of all time in Hollywood at a time before the internet and the culture as we know it today. And she survived, she made her way, she still worked. She also had another business as a memorabilia collector, where she spent years and years and years collecting a lot of the old MGM musical memorabilia and Marilyn Monroe's dress and a lot of other things that she actually had a museum in Las Vegas at one point that was a home for a lot of this stuff, and she just kept trudging along, and she was a survivor.
Hey, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, which I find it kind of ironic and maybe poetic justice in a way. She had the dress that Liz Taylor had from Cleopatra, or the costume. That was part of her collection that Debbie Reynolds had, right?
I believe that is correct. I believe it was one of the costumes. Yeah. But she had a lot of things. She spent years and years at a time when a lot of the old Hollywood studio memorabilia was being thrown out and discarded. She saw value in this stuff and started collecting it, and in part as homage to the past and the time that she grew up in, but also as, I think, a smart business, that she knew that there'd be value to this stuff, and she amassed a pretty good collection.
Yeah. Another clip of Debbie Reynolds. Watch.
When you call her up, do you really say, "Hi, this is Debbie Reynolds, your mother"? I mean, what?
Yeah, I'm just so used to saying it. I say, instead of saying hi, I don't know why I say hi. I mean, of course she knows my name.
This is your mother.
Hello, dear, this is Debbie. Instead, I forget.
No, your mother, Debbie.
This is your mommy.
You can see where Carrie Fisher got that personality and why she was so outspoken and had so much moxie, Matt.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that people noted when Carrie Fisher passed away yesterday was her candor and her ability to not only talk openly about the struggles that she had encountered in her life, but to turn those into her art and to turn it into memoirs and her one-woman show. And a lot of what made up her personality and her public persona, that directly came from Debbie Reynolds, because there's a lot of things in her history that she's been very outspoken about, and she went through a lot of personal issues at a very young age and lived through them all, and this was transferred onto Carrie.
Dr. Debbie, as a physician, physicians treat people who have addictions all the time and even who suffer from mental health illness, but what she did for those two causes really is invaluable.
Oh, of course, it's incredible. I mean, taking your own personal struggles, it's already hard to deal with it.
And because of the
yourself,
stigma,
right?
especially with mental health issues, right?
Exactly. And then to take all of that and put it forward and try to help all these other people, I think that's incredible work.
Matt, how do you think Debbie Reynolds will be remembered and honored?
Oh, she's one of the great Hollywood stars. I mean, she is a link to the bygone era of movie musicals where the stars weren't just actors, they weren't just celebrities, they were performers, they were singers, dancers. They were personalities. And she worked in every medium. She was, she could sing and dance. She also had a television show on NBC. She was, of course, a movie star. She did radio. She had a top #1 hit on the Billboard chart. I mean, she really did everything, and she lasted. She lasted for decades.
She worked right up until the end. Remember, she was Deborah Messing. She was Grace's mother on Will and Grace, right?
Absolutely, and she would pop up in different shows and different things over the years. She slowed down in recent years, and as I mentioned, she wasn't able to accept her honorary Oscar last year, which was a signifier that she wasn't doing very well. But she did work up till her 70s and 80s.
It's let's talk about again the mother-daughter relationship. Sometimes when you have kids who are from movie stars and they also go into acting, they're overshadowed by their parents. But these two seem to work in tandem, Matt, and they seem to love each other. And it was also interesting that they also seem to embrace every role that they were in. Carrie Fisher wasn't concerned about being sort of typecast as Princess Leia, and Debbie Reynolds wasn't concerned about being typecast as America's sweetheart.
No, absolutely not. And if you look at the roles that Carrie Fisher took, I mean, obviously she was cast in Star Wars when she was 19 years old, but she didn't let that role define her. She really branched out into other areas, becoming a top author and becoming a screenwriter. And I think the influence of her mother probably played a big role because she was born into celebrity. She was born into stardom. So that wasn't the end all for her. It was always the jumping point for doing other things. And, if you look at what happened with Postcards from the Edge, which was Carrie Fisher's memoir about her relationship with her mother, that was adapted into a film. And if you look at the actors who played them, I mean, Shirley MacLaine played a loose version of Debbie Reynolds, and Meryl Streep played a loose version of Carrie Fisher. That's pretty amazing actresses to play these two women.
Yeah. And this was definitely, they say don't underestimate Dr. Debbie, affairs of the heart. This was an affair of the heart between mother and daughter.
So.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you, Dr. Debbie. Now I want to bring in now a legend, an actor, director, and producer, Carl Reiner. He's on the phone. He starred with Debbie Reynolds in the film Gazebo. Mr. Reiner, thank you so much for coming on this evening, and my condolences. How are you going to remember her?
Sad day. Unbelievable. When you get to be 94 and people go at 60 and 80, you say that's not fair. It's just not fair.
Yeah. What are you going to remember most? You worked with her, as I said, in the film Gazebo. There's a picture of you with her we're looking at.
In a thing called Gazebo, her and Glenn Ford, and found her just the most delightful human being. I remember first seeing her in what do you call it? One she made with Gene Kelly.
Singing in the Rain?
Singing in the Rain. And I just watched it the other night, 2 nights ago. I just decided to watch it because it makes me smile. And I kept remembering that. And I said, this is one of the best things I've ever seen in the theater on a one-man show. The only one that could come close to it is Billy Crystal's 700 Sundays. But I remember going backstage and say, this is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. And I've gone to theater for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Those two tremendous talents pass away within a day of each other. It's unspeakable, unheard of.
And you mentioned that, two incredible talents, a day of each other, unspeakable. And you mentioned Zsa Zsa Gabor. We just lost Zsa Zsa Gabor maybe 2 weeks ago on December 18th. But Mr. Reiner, I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with you, having worked with Debbie Reynolds and knowing her very well. We'll be right back.
Okay, let me explain. This is your tax return.
We've been talking about Carrie Fisher still this morning as the tributes flow. We've got some breaking news now here on Sky News that Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher's mother, has now been rushed to hospital herself in LA after reportedly suffering a stroke. The vision we've got here comes from TMZ. It's a US gossip website. And it's got this vision from Debbie Reynolds' son's home a short time ago.
TMZ is reporting that the 84-year-old took ill after the unexpected death of her daughter. It's understood that Miss Reynolds was discussing funeral plans with her son, Todd Fisher, at his home in Beverly Hills. And of course, that's the information available at the moment. We'll bring you more information as soon as it comes to hand.